I more wanted to get with Justin and
Mm-hmm.
talk about how he thought about the law of Moses.
Dom, before you start, and then by all means, are you a believer?
Yes, I'm a believer. Believer in
Okay.
Jesus all the way.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm.
Yes,
Go
Yeah.
ahead,
sir.
by all means.
Well, my thoughts on the law of Moses was that it was a horrific law code, but it was in line with other law codes from its time period. So, like, if you compare it to
Okay.
Hammurabi and the other law codes, it's roughly similar. Like, there are some parts that are better, some parts that are worse. To me, it seems like the law code was there and provided the same level of structure as Hammurabi did for the Babylonians. Sometimes they followed it,
Right.
sometimes they didn't follow it.
Right. Okay. Can you name all the laws from Moses?
No, I'm not really sure it would benefit anyone for that to happen.
There's
But
Well,
there's a
there's
list on
613, right?
there's a list on the
there's
internet if you really want to know.
613. But well, first off, 613 laws. Not exactly, because you got to look
Well,
at it like this.
commandments.
Yeah, commandments. You got to look at it like this. What did Moses first do when he came down and saw that his people were idolizing a false god?
He
He
smashed
broke the
the
tablet.
original tablets and he
Yes,
burned up the idol and made them drink the ashes.
that's not what happened. He
That's
had to go back up to the.
100%
He
what
had to go back
happened.
up to
Yeah,
the
he
mountain.
burned the idol
That's
and then
insane.
he mixed it with water and made him drink the ashes of the burnt idol.
What did he do after he saw that? He had to go back up to the mountain because what did he do? He broke the tablet.
Yeah, he got more tablets. I
So he
know.
had to. So what was the last? So what did God add in? What did God add in
Well, the
into
two
that tablet for the last?
the two different commandments are different. Like if you look at the ones in Exodus 34 and compare them to Exodus 20, they don't exactly match, but that's because they came from different editors.
What?
Yeah. If you compare the original 10 commandments to the second giving of the 10 commandments, they don't match identically.
Why wouldn't they? Because Moses broke that was the whole. Moses broke the tablet after
I'm
seeing
I'm aware.
that the go. Now, no, okay, I understand that. Now, when I heard you talking about Jesus and there was no reason for him to come in and save, what did Jesus say to the Pharisees that made the Pharisees kill him?
Oh, he blasphemed. He claimed to be on par with God, and
But what did he exactly say?
according to Deuteronomy 13 and others, that's death warrant right there. Blasphemy is liable to death.
That's not really what I was asking. What I was saying was is that Jesus said, "I am the law of Moses." That's
No, he
exactly what
didn't
he
say
said.
that.
Look it up.
Tell me what verse it is.
He called him.
Prove me
I can't
wrong.
give you an exact verse. Look it up.
He never
He
said,
said,
"I
Pretty sure
am
he
the
called
law
him-
of Moses." He didn't.
Pretty sure he said he's the son of man, but I don't think he ever said he's the
Let me
law of
see something.
Moses.
In the book of John, he equates himself to be on par with God because he says, "Before Abraham was I am."
Which is
that-
just bad grammar.
Is that the one you're looking for?
Matthew 15:17 through 18. I am the law of Moses.
Are you reading the Message?
This is the part of the Bible, the one that you call fake.
It
Go ahead.
says,
I am the
do
law of
you,
Moses.
do you not see that whatever goes into the mouth enters the stomach and goes out into the sewer? I think you got the wrong passage.
Nice, good one.
No. That's not. I see what you're doing. Matthew
excellent work of scatology by God.
Matthew 5:17 through 18.
Oh, well, you said Matthew 15. So Matthew 5 is going to cook
Matthew
you.
5:17.
So in Matthew 5, he talks about fulfilling the law. He says, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass away from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven." Because Jesus did not say that he was getting rid of the law. Paul invented that theology. And
Also, if I'm not
ahead.
mistaken, this wasn't said to the Pharisees. This was
He did
him.
not
This was him giving a sermon, right?
Right. But what happened was that the Pharisees actually came while he was giving the sermon, And
Does
the
it say that
Pharisees came
somewhere?
while he was.
No,
You have to read it.
it doesn't say
You have to
that.
read it.
It says when
Well,
Jesus,
I am reading it right now.
when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up to the mountain and he sat down with his disciple, and his disciples came to him, and he began to speak and taught them, saying, and then he teaches them. That's Matthew chapter 5, verse 1.
Yeah.
Dom, you haven't actually
want
read
you to
your
go-
book. I've never seen somebody with such overconfidence in a book he's never read.
Yeah, it doesn't actually
Except
mention
I
the
have,
Pharisees
'cause
anywhere in
you didn't
Matthew
even-
8,
you
between
literally
5 and 8.
So just so you know, Dom,
What I'm
pretending
saying is-
pretending to know a book doesn't look good. So like the best advice I ever got in
Right.
public speaking when I was a teenager was, believe it or not, from my actual youth pastor, and he said, "Talk about what you know. Don't talk about things you don't know, because then you look stupid."
Right. Right. I feel that. But then I want you to go on the internet, right? Wait, hold on. Actually, show us that verse that you just read off. Show us that verse.
Sure.
Can you show us on the Bible? Show us.
It's on the screen right now.
Matthew 5:17 through 18, where you said it doesn't say that Jesus never said, "I am the law of Moses."
It says, "Do not think I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish,
No,
but to
show us,
fulfill."
Show us.
It's on
Show us.
Dom is on the screen
on the
right
screen.
now.
Oh, I can't see the screen. I apologize, but I'm
Everyone
literally
see-
looking at it right now. where
Everyone
says,
sees
"I
it
am
but
the law of
you.
Moses."
Go find your Bible. Go. Hold on.
Okay.
I maybe he's reading this one. Let me grab. I've got a special Bible. This
Reading
is
this one.
this is the Sparkle Children's Bible. Let me see. Let me see if it says something different.
Are you
in
reading the KJ? Are you reading the KJV or?
I'm not. No.
Oh yeah.
No. But is Dom?
No, Dom's not
See, but
reading
that
from the
never-
Bible. There's no Bible translation
I'm
that
not
says what he
reading from it.
says. So it
I
says
want
here
everybody in
in
the
the
comments to
Sparkle
go look
Children's
that up,
Bible,
please.
"Do not think that I have come to destroy the law of Moses or the teachings of the prophets. I have not come to destroy their teachings, but to do what they said." The Sparkle Bible got it right. I got
Wait, what'd you say?
I got the Princess Bible behind me if you want an alternative translation.
So Matthew, for truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not one letter of the law will disappear until everything is accomplished. Until everything is accomplished.
And everything isn't accomplished.
And what was the accomplishment?
Heaven and earth passing away.
No, the accomplishment was him dying on
That
the
wasn't
cross
an
because it was through
accomplishment.
his
He
blood.
says, "For truly I tell you, until
Him dying
heaven..."
on the cross wasn't an accomplishment?
No, it wasn't. "For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away." Have that happened?
Oh my. Listen. Okay.
Dom,
So what was
I
the
need
point of
you to
Jesus
actually-
dying on the cross in the Bible?
He was a blasphemer. He had to die. So the question is, have heaven and earth passed away?
Wait, what did you do? You said
Dom,
he
I know,
was a blasphemer.
I know this is really
Wait,
hard
wait.
for you to adjust what
In the
the
Bi-
passage
no,
actually says, but the
no,
passage
could-
says,
could you-
"Until
could you
heaven
move it
and
around?
earth pass away, have heaven and earth passed away."
And that's where it said.
Dom, has heaven
have-
and earth passed away? Say yes or no.
No.
Okay. Jesus says, "Until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass away from the law." It being accomplished is the heaven and the earth passing
Well,
away.
Actually, I was wrong because him saying heaven and earth, when him saying heaven passing away, he's really talking about him passing away.
So now
Him
words don't
passing
mean
away through
words.
the blood.
Okay.
No.
So when we
What was the point of the New
hear the
Testament?
when we
What was
hear
the
the
point of the New
words
Testament?
heaven and earth, how do we know that heaven and earth means heaven and earth, or when it means Jesus? How do we know?
Justin, the difference is that if you read the actual full script instead of taking parts out,
I've read
you'll
every
see that
last
he's
word of
talking-
it.
You read every last word of the Bible.
Every last word of the Bible. Yep.
Then how do you not know? What was the point of the
In
New
multiple
Testament?
languages, which is
What's the
why
point of the New Testament?
I know you're cooking yourself right
What's
now.
the point of the New Testament?
The point of the New Testament is to give the gospel message that they thought Jesus was preaching, but as it turns out, Paul contradicts the teachings of Jesus
How?
because Paul says the law was temporary, Jesus does not. Jesus says not one time that the law was temporary, not
what
once.
Are Pharisees? What are Pharisees then?
Pharisees are Jewish teachers.
Jewish teachers, and what did they do?
They taught people.
What did they do to Jesus?
And they
what
were
did they do to? What
they
did
were
they call?
the they
Like
were
you
the
said, like you
they
said,
were the
Jesus was a
keepers.
blasphemer, right?
They were the keepers of the law, and they were in charge of making sure that people were following the law the way that they thought was appropriate. But again, it still came down to the Sanhedrin because they didn't have sole control over the people. You had to go to the actual court, which was the Sanhedrin, in order to force people to behave a particular way.
That's not really what I. Okay, look.
Yeah, I know. History's hard too.
What was the Pharisees? Look, okay, Justin. We got. We don't got to do that. We don't got to do that. Okay, so the Pharisees were there. What did they do? What did they do to Jesus after he claimed to be God? What did they do to him?
They killed
Why
him
would that be?
because he's a blasphemer.
So the Bible talks about. So
I don't know if you know this, but the Bible says that you must kill blasphemers. The Jewish people wrote about it. Read
you must stone them.
Sanhedrin 43a says they killed him because he was leading the Jewish people astray.
What happened after Jesus died?
Nothing. His disciples scattered.
Whoa, but you're following the Bible. You're following the Bible. You got to keep the Bible. What happened to Jesus after he died? If you're following the Bible, what happened to him after he died? Because it says it. It says it in the New Testament.
You mean according to the mythology?
No. We're following the Bible. Don't do that. We're following the Bible.
But the Bible's mythology.
We're following the Bible. No. If you're going to give out strict scriptures, you got to follow it. You got to stick to it. You can't.
You don't have to accept that the Bible.
Your whole argument. That takes away your whole argument.
My argument is that the Bible is not true, dummy.
But then you're trying to use the Bible to contradict itself. But then
the Bible contradicts itself. I don't need to appeal outside of the Bible for this.
Wait, so the logical structure of the argument is that if an assumption leads to a contradiction, then the initial assumption must be wrong. So if we assume that the Bible is true, and by doing so it leads to a falsehood or a contradiction, then we can assume that the initial assumption is wrong.
What was a contradiction?
That's the structure.
I apologize for interrupting you. What was the contradiction?
The contradiction,
whatever you and Justin are talking about,
is that Jesus says to follow the law, and that the law is not going to pass away until heaven and earth pass away, and that whoever follows the law is doing good. Whoever teaches others to not follow the law will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. That directly contradicts.
Did Jesus die yet?
That directly contradicts.
Did Jesus die yet when he said that?
That directly contradicts what Paul said. And
did Jesus die when he said that?
Dom, he said until heaven and earth pass away.
And what does that mean? What does that mean?
The same thing it means.
Who passed away?
It means
who
the
passed
same.
Away?
Jesus passed away, and he still passed away. It means the same thing that it means every other time we read it. In the book of Peter and in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 7, the earth is still about to pass away. The earth hasn't passed away yet. Why is Paul saying that things are about to pass away in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 if heaven and earth have already passed away?
Do you realize?
He can't answer now because you have a book.
You didn't let me. Damn, can I answer? Oh my God.
Answer the question. Why do Peter and Paul still preach that the earth is about to pass away when you just told me heaven and earth passing away was Jesus dying?
As in saving you from the law of Moses. But what I'm talking about is
we don't need saved from the law of Moses. God said to follow the law forever, and so did Jesus. Jesus said until heaven and earth pass away.
Right. But when you follow that, he knows that you can't follow it.
Wrong again.
Wholly.
God says in Deuteronomy chapter 30, surely this commandment that I'm commanding you today is not too Deuteronomy chapter 30, surely this commandment that I'm commanding you today is not too hard for you.
Right.
If you read the book, you would know this.
Old Testament? And that was in the Old Testament?
Yeah, the God who gave the law, the God who gave the law said that it is not too hard for you.
And he said it's not too hard for you.
Yep.
Finish the rest of that verse.
Says it's not too hard for you, nor is it too far away.
Finish the rest of the verse.
That's the end of the verse. Want me to read the next verse?
No, like, because you're taking it out of context. I know what you're doing.
No, I'm reading. It says, surely this commandment that I am commanding you today is not too hard for you, nor is it too far away. It is not in heaven that you should say, who will go up to heaven for us and go get it for us. Have you actually read Deuteronomy? Have you ever read it?
I mean, I'm still working on it. I mean, I'm man enough to say that. I'm still working on it, but I couldn't
isn't this
understand
like
it.
the fifth book of the Bible?
Yeah.
There's still you don't read it chronologically. You read it in chronological order. I don't
You
read it in
should.
chronological order.
If you read it in
You should.
chronological order, you would understand that the New Testament contradicts the Old
From an
Testament.
atheist.
Mm-hmm.
Come on,
You should.
no.
I have formal training in this, Dom.
You're
I've
telling
actually-
me
I've
about
actually read the
but you're
Bible.
also not taking.
That's why I'm an atheist, Dom, is because I've read it.
No,
Yeah.
that's not the truth. Because
That
you
is the
won't even-
truth.
No.
Yeah, it is the truth.
Because
I was a
you won't
Christian.
even- you won't-
Dom, I was a Christian for 20 years. I went to Bible college and seminary.
And you were never.
I know this
and you were
book.
never a real-
I know this book
you were never
inside
a
and
real
out.
believer.
It's not
You were
true.
never a real believer.
I certainly was. I
You were
believed.
never a real
Okay,
believer.
then you're not a real believer.
How?
Prove it. Prove you're a real believer.
I don't have to.
Prove
I
to me
feel like
now that you're a real
You're
believer.
an atheist, not me.
Prove it.
I feel like you've
You're
taken like a wrong
atheist.
turn somewhere when your argument is like making claims about your opponent's psychological states. When you have to say like my opponent is lying about the things that they believe, when you have literally no proof of that, when their
But then
beliefs are
doesn't
like
it also-
100%
but
consistent,
isn't there
like we
insecurities
just have
also when the
it is
opponent is
as
one of
absurd
another?
to say that Justin didn't believe as it would be to say that you don't believe. Right, like if you were at some point in your future
Okay,
to
well,
come to the
put that
conclusion
simply
that
when
God
Justin
doesn't
calls me
exist,
dumb.
I think it would be
When Justin
obscene to
calls
say
me
that
dumb,
you
does that
currently
mean-
don't believe. That just seems ridiculous to me.
So when Justin calls me dumb, right, and then I don't exactly go at it, I say that's okay. What does that mean? Does that mean he's right, or does that mean he's
What
wrong?
about you being dumb?
Yeah.
I think that
Generally, Justin has good judgment.
I'll let the audience make up their minds about that one.
I have good judgment about that. Never mind. I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? We're good.
pretending to read minds isn't a good look, Dom.
I'm not trying to read your mind. I could just tell. Because
You can't
still-
just
you
tell.
still
Okay,
won't bring up- 'cause bring up-
I could just tell that you're not a real Christian. Then cool.
Listen. I'm not here to
A real Christian
fr-
wouldn't get
the
up here and
fruits are
act
not
this
with
way.
you.
I don't see any Christian fruit.
Right. You don't got to.
I think
It's
you're
not-
actually
not God.
I think you're chasing people away from Christianity right now. You're making people
Right.
second guess it.
Right.
Maybe
But back
if
to
you
what I
had the
was saying,
fruits
though.
of the spirit, you could actually have a winning argument.
Right. But back to what I was saying though. You ignore the fact when I bring up Jesus being crucified. You said it didn't happen, but then you're still
No, I didn't
using
say he wasn't
evidence
crucified.
as the Bible to contradict it.
We know he
You
was
can't use-
crucified. The Jewish people said he was
can't use the-
crucified. The
No,
Romans
you
said he
literally
was
just said-
crucified. I have no problem admitting that he's
The
crucified.
Bible also says he was crucified.
Well, the Bible also says the earth is flat. That means nothing to me.
Can you show me that?
Yeah, Job 38:14. It says the earth is formed like clay beneath a seal. Do you want to see what that looks like?
Joe. Wait, can you say the verse for me again, please?
Job 38:14.
Joe 38:14. The features stand out like. Yeah, I'm looking it up. That hasn't. Do you know what the book of Job is about?
I know exactly what it's about. Can you see what's on the screen right now?
Huh?
Can you see what's on the screen right now?
Low key, no. I'm using my iPhone.
Okay,
I'm not gonna
for
lie.
everyone who can see it, this is the clay seal of Hezekiah. As you'll notice, it's a flat disc. This is clay.
Is that an ice wall that I see around
What
it?
is,
It is the
what
ice
book
wall.
of
It
Job
is the
about?
ice wall.
What is the book of
So-
Job about?
This is what they believe clay beneath a seal looked like, because this is what clay beneath a seal looked like. So when Job says that the earth is formed like clay beneath a seal, this is what he's envisioning. The book
What
of
is
Job,
the book of Job about?
the book
Why-
of Job
why-
is another fairy tale where God executes innocent people to win a bet with the enemy that he created.
Tell me, and then what happened? What really happened in that story?
What really happened was God tortured a bunch of humans, executed them, and then
That's not the story.
that's exactly the story. And then
That's not the.
once he tortured Job, he gave Job more children and restored his fortunes. But you can't restore someone's dead children by replacing them with new children, nor the slaves that were
No, you're
killed.
definitely right.
So the story, first of all, shouldn't be taken to be literal, but I would assume you think it's a literal story. If it's a literal story, then it's a horrific story because God killed all those people just to win a bet with the devil.
He didn't kill all those people. He killed
did.
the people in his family. He killed
And the servants.
God killed the people in his family, you know.
And the
people like
servants.
that, yeah.
And the animals, right?
Right. But
And the animals.
But no. But you just try to generalize. He just killed people. So I'm kind of putting that more.
Yeah, he did. He killed a bunch of
Don't try to make it
people.
more specific. You're trying to make it more specific after you just generalize the whole conversation.
Yeah,
You
he
just
killed
generalize that whole topic.
he killed all the people
You can't
that were
generalize
killed.
No, because now you're becoming
Dom,
dishonest because you just try to generalize the whole
pay
story
attention,
and then bring it
Dom.
back.
All the people that died in that story died because God had it done.
You said what?
All the people that died in the story of Job only died because
There you
God
go.
commanded it to happen.
You said it better now. Okay.
That's the same
you
thing I
go.
said before.
See?
I said God killed all those people.
Do you think your understanding is better than God's?
I don't think God exists, so yes.
Do you think in a moral so you
Do
think
you,
you're and
do you
that's the
think
issue?
do you think it's okay
Because
to
you yet
do you think it's
like,
okay to
no,
kill people
hold on.
for a bet?
Hold on. 'Cause
Dom, do you think Dom, don't run, don't be scared.
Huh?
Dom, don't run, don't be scared. Do you think it's okay to kill people to win a bet?
I'm here. Do I think it's okay to kill? I see what you're doing there. It wasn't a bet. As a
Okay,
matter
so
of fact,
so
it was
it's
more of a
okay to
test,
kill.
which
It's
Christians
okay
get
to kill
tested.
all of them, just to win a test.
I'm not God. I don't create people.
Is there anything God could do that would be bad?
I can't create people. I'll go to jail.
Is there anything God could do that would be bad?
If you make people,
Huh? I said I don't make people. Dr. Blitz, I don't know what you.
Dom, is there anything God
question
could
is?
do
Don't worry
that
about it.
would be bad?
What?
Is there anything
God's
God
all
could do
sovereign.
that could be bad?
God's sovereign.
But
God
is
is
there
sovereign.
anything God could do that would be bad? That's the question.
Not for me. No.
Okay, so if God says,
He's all
Dom,
good.
I want you to round up all the babies at the orphanage and then send them through a meat grinder and turn them into paste, and then I want you to roll the paste over your garage floor so that every time you pull into your garage, you park on top of the dead babies. Would that be a good command?
Has he ever asked me that?
I didn't say he did. I said if he did, would it be good to follow
But
it?
Yeah, but that now you're just
Dom,
coming up to assumption.
answer the question. It's an analogy.
That's an
or
assumption.
It's a test of your
That's a crazy
logic. So my
assumption.
question is, if God
That's a
told you
crazy
to,
assumption.
if God
What?
told you to do it, would it be the right thing to do it?
If God told me to do it, but
Yeah.
he's never.
I didn't say he did. I said if. That's how hypotheticals work. In the
Yeah, but that'd be
hypothetical,
like me saying.
in the hypothetical,
That'd
Dom,
be like-
don't be a coward. Just answer the question. In the hypothetical, would it be a good thing to follow that command?
Would it be a good thing to follow that command of him telling me to murder? Of course, for me, that's something that I would disobey. I would frankly disobey that.
I'm saying,
because
Would it be
no,
wrong?
I wouldn't do that.
I'm saying, would it be wrong to disobey? Is the right thing to do is follow the command?
Is the right thing to do is follow his commands?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the right thing to do.
Oh,
but
there you go. That's why you're a walking red flag.
you're a grown man.
so
talking
you would
like
consider, just to be clear, for clarification here, you would consider yourself a bad person if you didn't follow that command?
that. We're all evil.
I think
That
you're
wasn't my
evil.
question.
We're all evil people.
That wasn't my question.
That's why Jesus came to save us, because we're all evil.
Okay, let me rephrase. Would you consider yourself a worse person for not following that command?
When there's no worse person in that. I don't consider myself a worse person. I'm a man who sins.
Well, I mean, clearly, do you agree that, like, well, maybe you don't agree, but, like, if I tell a white lie just to make my mother not be sad, is that equally bad as murdering 100,000 people?
You said if
If I tell a white
I
lie,
mean, if you
is
tell
that
a white
equally
lie,
bad
is
as
that
murdering 100,000
equally-
people?
Well, you got to realize. See, now you're coming at me instead of more of what we're talking about. But I can answer your question. So from my understanding, from my human brain, of course, I'm gonna see it as that is.
Not in that scenario.
I wouldn't feel like a good person in either scenario. These are random. These are very weird scenarios that neither one of you have gone through.
I'm not asking would you consider yourself a good person in general. I'm asking would you consider yourself a better person for fulfilling the command as opposed to not fulfilling the command.
I wouldn't feel like a better person in either situation.
Better is comparative, right? So
Yeah,
would you
better
feel
is comparative,
so are you saying that you would feel equally evil whether you obeyed the command or not?
Like I said at the beginning, no matter what, I'm evil. So either way.
I'm asking for a relative comparison here.
Yeah, I understand what you're asking, but I'm not going to feed into it because it's not.
Okay, you're just refusing to answer the question then.
Right?
No,
Yeah,
that's
he's
not what
scared.
the
It's
issue is,
okay.
is that, no, it's okay.
I'd be scared too. Don't worry.
It's okay.
I mean, look, like we could just put
scared
numbers
too.
to this. Like,
I don't want no smoke with you.
like it,
I don't want no.
like it. Let's say that you have an evilness level of 6, right? And if you murdered
Right.
10,000 babies, your evilness number would go up. And if you helped an old lady cross the street, your evilness number might go down. Maybe not to 0, but you know, yeah, we have some. There's some reasonable way that we can assess what. Like clearly, like Adolf Hitler has a much higher evilness level than like I don't know, Gandhi, right? So the question is if your evilness level starts at a 5, say, and then God gives you this command, which response, obeying the command or disobeying the command, would lead to a higher level of evilness?
Okay. Now this is where this is very funny. I like that. No, I like you, Dr. Blitz. That's a very good question.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'd appreciate it more if you answered the question.
Right. Okay. So, and ask the question one more time for me, please, just to make sure.
Right. So you're at an evilness level of 5. Say it does 5. It doesn't mean anything, but just 5. Higher is more evil. Lower is less evil. And then God gives you the command. He comes down. You hear a voice from the heavens, and he tells you to grind up a bunch of orphans and then lay their meat down on your garage to drive over them with your car. So every time you pull in, you're driving over the meat of orphans, right? Now you have 2 options. You could obey the command, or you could disobey the command. Which of those 2 options would lead to a higher level of evilness for you?
What did David do?
What did David do? I mean, that's not the question. I know you're referring to. I'm asking what is your answer to the question?
Your question. King David answers your question. What did King David do after he disobeyed God?
I don't remember King David being one of the options.
Yeah, the question is which option leads to more evil?
I'm answering your question.
Leads to a more evil you.
Because you guys are thinking that this evil, it's a rank of evil. Jeffrey Dahmer?
Well, I mean, look, it could be qualitative. The point is that like you and I intuitively agree that some people are way more evil than others.
Outside the Bible, you guys are getting outside the Bible.
I'm
Oh, is this evil? Is this evil?
All things considered, I'm glad that you believe. Because if you don't know the answer to that question, I'm glad that you have this fear of hell. Because otherwise, I can't imagine what you would do without it.
Right. Except you don't know me. But
I mean, cool. you told me everything that I needed to know about you. You said that you didn't know what to do.
Making assumptions like that is wrong, but then you're doing the same thing.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not making assumptions. You just told me that you don't know which is worse, killing 10,000 babies or disobeying God.
And I understand that. But
it's crazy.
That's not
Some
really.
People are dangerous.
That's a random question. That's a crazy question. Would you kill?
It has an obvious answer.
Like what type?
It has an obvious answer.
Extremist question. That's a dishonest question. That's an extremist question.
It's an extreme question. I agree. It's not dishonest.
Okay. If we want to do that, because your guys' whole thing is about morals, you should have no morals because you don't believe in. Where would you guys get your morals from?
I can say that morality is grounded in empathy, but it doesn't matter because it's an internal critique.
You have no God. So someone comes down.
Here comes the pivot.
Right? Do any of you guys eat burgers? Do any of you guys eat burgers?
I don't. I'm a vegan.
Okay, that's cool. What about
I'm
you,
a breatharian.
I can tell you eat burgers. Justin, I know you love some burgers, boy.
No, I don't. I eat steaks.
You don't like burgers? You like me? Oh, you like steaks? Now, what if, say aliens come down, right? And they start treating you like how we treat cows, pigs. Is that morally wrong?
For me or for them?
Is that wrong? Is that wrong?
For me or for them?
Is that wrong?
Well, I don't believe in objective morals.
Exactly.
So
that's my point.
They would think that it's okay. So they would think that it's okay. I would
use morals as a.
I can. So Dom, just pay attention. So they would think that it's okay. I would think that it's not okay. So I'm still allowed to have opinions on what is permissible and not permissible, because morals are subjective in my worldview. Although I think Ian's got a pretty good argument for objective morality
Yeah.
from the atheistic
Yeah.
worldview.
Yeah, right. So we could just ground our morality in empathy, which is going to be presupposed in all rational moral discourse, which means that the objectively good thing to do is the empathetic thing to do, and the objectively bad thing to do is the unempathetic thing to do.
I'm sorry, Ian. You did that. Like, you said something very good, but can you explain that one more time?
Yeah, sure. So in order to make rational moral claims, we need to be engaging in like a rational moral dialogue. In order to be rational, we need to be hearing each other out. We need to be listening to each other's objections to our morality, which means that we need to be seeing it from each other's perspective. We need to hear other people's objections and take their objections as the starting point for our morality, which means that the starting point of our morality is empathy, seeing things from other people's perspectives, which means
Okay.
that empathy is an objective moral standard just by the nature of moral discourse.
And that's just your morals towards. And you're a vegan, right?
Yeah.
Wait, so you're a vegan, but you believe that your morals should be listening to everybody, and
Yeah,
so do you feel some
you
type
should
of way?
be
Do you
taking
feel
an
some type of
interest
way
in
that?
everybody's interests. Yeah.
Do you feel some type of way that Justin eats steak?
I mean, I think it's like morally wrong to eat steak
You think it's morally wrong? What makes it morally wrong?
because I think it's unempathetic to the animal.
It's okay.
I think factory farms are like genuinely something we'll look back on in the future and think that we were
But does
doing
it
like
matter?
some horrible, awful thing.
But does it matter?
I think so, yeah.
Why?
I think that it matters because empathy is the foundation of morality. And it's
Empathy is the
unempathetic. I think
foundation.
factory farms are like just about the least empathetic thing you could ever do.
But how do you know they feel some type of way? Is it their like? I mean,
Animals?
they don't have consciousness like how we do.
They-
How do you
well,
know
they
they
have
feel some type of way? How do
consciousness.
you know they know
sure
what's
do.
going on?
They do.
Right? Yeah, they feel a way. Of
Oh,
course they
Justin,
feel.
you shouldn't feel that way. You eat them, don't you?
Yeah, but
Go
I'm
ahead, Ian. I'm sorry.
but I'm the hypocrite here. I agree that they do have feelings. They do have consciousness.
Yeah, right.
Ian,
Like
go
you could
ahead,
say,
please.
like I bet Justin would probably agree that like if we really got down to it and into like the rational ethics of it, it probably is unethical to eat meat.
I agree.
And then then you just like eat meat anyway, which is I don't know. I mean, I think that it's like indicative of like some sort of like performative contradiction, but it's not like an inconsistency in any beliefs.
No, I feel that. No, I actually like your way of thinking about how moralism is. But I feel like where it comes to a head is that, for me, honestly, is to the point where if you have no type of higher authority to that, yes, you may think it, but does it really matter? Does it really matter what you think
Yeah.
at the end of the
Right.
day? And I feel you
Yeah,
because you're
of
smart. I could tell
course.
you, Ian, you're smart. You're bright. I'm not gonna sit there and trash you in no type of way.
I appreciate the glaze. Thank you. But yeah, I don't know. I think of course it matters, right? Like if we value things like logical beliefs, logical conclusions, then of course it matters.
Okay, but what is? Of course, it matters to you. But what if, like what the other dude said? Thank goodness I have Christianity. Thank goodness I have Christianity. Because what would it be? What would I be without it? Would it matter? Would my opinion matter to you if I didn't believe in Christianity and I was just this
Yes.
crazy person?
Yeah, of course, right? Because
Why would it matter
the
if I didn't
starting
care?
point, the ethical objections of the other are the foundation of my morality. Attempting to see the way my actions are going to impact you, listening to the objections you put forward to my actions are the foundation of my morality. Empathy is the foundation of my morality. I don't think that there is morality if you're not taking into account the way that your actions affect other people.
Right, right. Of course. But like I said, morality doesn't say you see somebody robbing your house or trying to murder you. Are you gonna bring that to them? Is that what you?
If well, so I mean, at that point,
What you think is wrong matters.
yeah, I mean, I would say that what they're doing is wrong, yeah, and they have forfeited their ability to make moral claims at all.
Yeah, but what you think. But what about others? What about people who live in a bad situation? Because their morals is different from yours. So what makes that different?
If
What
their
makes yours
morals are
different?
unempathetic, then they're wrong. And I think we can empathize with people who do these actions that are harmful, like stealing, for example. If someone was
What makes
stealing
them
out of like
wrong?
necessity for something,
What makes it wrong?
then just that if the stealing is unempathetic, then I'd say that the stealing is wrong. If there's like some higher empathetic good to the stealing, then it's probably okay.
So if they feel some type of way, then it's okay.
Well, if
If
there's
they're
like some
empathetic towards
outweighing,
it, man,
like, not
I'm really
really.
sad that I robbed him, but I'm still gonna do it. That's
So
empathetic. That's empathy.
So no, not necessarily, right? Because if you were this person, you wouldn't want to be robbed. That's what empathy is. The person that you're robbing doesn't want to be robbed. You don't want to be robbed. Nobody wants to be robbed.
Right.
Sometimes there's like outlying moral circumstances, like empathetic considerations. For example, stealing from someone who has like way too much food to feed your starving family. That probably is the empathetic thing to do, even
Right.
though this person doesn't want to get robbed. Like your family doesn't want to starve to death. And I think that I guess I could see either side of that argument, but
Right.
I don't think that you would be wrong to steal to feed your family. But if you're just stealing because you're like greedy or whatever, yeah, I do think that's wrong. I think that's unempathetic. You wouldn't want to be stolen from.
No. You're definitely right, but you got to see it from a different, because there's different, because like I said, and you got to realize also that we also live in different demographics too. But there's some people who are kleptomaniacs, people who have these sort of issues, right? They see it as, I'm doing it because I have a love for. Is it wrong? Is it morally wrong? To
Is it?
you, yes. To you, yes. But some people grew up in that. Some people grew up in that nature to the point where they see it as, I learned from this, and this is all I
Yeah,
know.
I
So
think that they're
therefore,
wrong. If they're
so my
stealing for no
issue is,
reason, if they're
what
stealing and
makes
there isn't
your
like an
moral compass?
outweighing moral consideration, then I think they're wrong.
No, but that's your moral. That's your morals.
But if they disagree with me,
What
then they're
makes
being
your morals different
illogical.
from the next person?
Yeah, if they disagree with me, then they're being illogical. Logic dictates that we listen to each other's perspective and attempt to see it from each other's perspective. If they're not attempting to see it from my perspective, then they're not being rational.
If they're not seeing it from your perspective, and they're not being wrong. But then what if you don't see it from theirs?
I do see it from their perspective.
You see it from their perspective every time.
I completely understand that somebody's upbringing might lead them to be somebody who just goes around stealing things. Like I totally get that. The fact of the matter is that I wouldn't like to be stolen from. They wouldn't like it if I stole from them. It's going to be wrong. We can do both of these things. We can see their perspective and then also come to the conclusion that they're wrong.
So then how can't you see the same side when it comes to coming back to Jesus,
Coming back to Jesus.
going to Jesus, following Jesus?
So
What makes you what? So if you have
because
all this, you want to see from both sides, but
this
you
is like my
can't.
viewpoint for like moral discussions, right? How I
Right.
come to the truth about like metaphysical claims, that's going to be a different process.
You said metaphysical claims.
Yeah, like metaphysical
Like when it
claims like
comes to
God
like
exists or
proving,
like Jesus is God.
when it comes to like proving existence, I'm not going to do that with you. I don't
Yeah.
have enough information and knowledge to know what that is. I'm just going to speak of straight scripture. What I'm saying is, what is stopping you from seeing it from our side to your side? I could tell that you have there's something in there with you. There's something in there where you're not trying to follow. Can you please tell me in the Bible? Not with
Yeah, it's
people. But
illogical.
what makes it
It,
illogical? I
it
don't want to hear
yeah,
from
just that
anybody else
there's
either.
so first of all, there's just like direct contradictions in the Bible.
Right.
God both can change his mind, but also can't change his mind. There's a contradiction between Exodus and Numbers, as well as like just like 1,000 more contradictions.
Okay.
It gets basic science facts wrong, says that the earth is older than the sun, says that rabbits and badgers chew cud, says that all women will bleed the first time they have sex. It just says like a bunch of falsehoods. And then of course, like
When you
God's a
said
moral
women,
monster. The God of the Bible is like insanely immoral, right? Like all these things make it like extremely unlikely
so like
that
that
God is real.
slavery thing, you felt like that was immoral.
Extraordinarily so, yeah.
I
Okay. Do
mean,
you know what they meant by slavery? Do you know what they
Yeah,
meant by
people owned his
slavery?
property, yeah.
Nah,
There's an echo
people who owed
also.
you something. People who
yeah.
owed you something.
That's not
Wait,
true.
can we get the echo fixed?
Not the slavery that you guys were pushing.
Okay, so Dom, I'll
Like,
just read you
Justin,
the
he was pushing
passage
that
since you
slavery.
haven't actually read it. It's okay. We get this a lot. It says, as
Oh
for
my
the male and
gosh.
female slaves who you may have, it is from the nations around you that you may acquire male and female slaves. You may also acquire them from among the aliens residing with you and from their families who are with you, who have been born in your land. They may be your property. You may keep them as a possession for your children after you, for them to inherit as property forever.
And guess what? What does he mean? Go look up the definition of slavery from the Bible, please. Because remember, it's
The
translated
Hebrew
to the Bible.
words, the Hebrew words for
Slavery-
slave to use here are ama and
look up that
eved.
definition.
And the definition of both those words is a slave or a servant. And a slave
No,
is
what's
somebody.
the definition of
The definition
who
of a
owes
slave.
debt?
It's not what it says. The definition of a slave is someone who's owned as property.
The Bible definition. What do they mean?
The Bible
you can't even read the
definition
Bible. What
is
is
the
the-
same as
Imagine
ours.
being a guy. Imagine being a guy who is defending a slavery in a Bible that was
Rarely.
forced on his ancestors.
That's painful.
Actually, that's not true. But keep on going.
How do you? Okay.
Dr. Blitz. Can
I'd
you
run
give
away
me
from the
actual-
slavery debate,
Because that's
too.
not what I was saying. I'm not defending. I'm not. Hold on. Because first off, don't talk about us like you know. Second off, wait, what was his name? Doctor what? Doctor
Blitz.
what? What was his name? I heard. Oh, Dr. Blitz. Yes, sir. Now the biblical definition of slavery. Please look it up for me, please.
I just read it
Well,
to you.
it gives a description of it, right? In
Yeah.
Leviticus 25, 44 through 46.
Justin
It
literally
says
said-
that they're property, right? It says that you own them as a
Justice.
possession for life that you can give to your kids. Inheritable possession for life is the characteristic of the slavery in Leviticus.
Yeah,
it's,
so-
it's chattel slavery, people owned as property.
I'm going to read it for you very slowly this time, and I want you to actually listen this time. It says, as for the male and female slaves who you may have, it is from the nations around you that you may acquire male and female slaves. You may also acquire them from among the aliens residing with you, and from their families who are with you, who have been born in your land. They may be your property. You may keep them as a possession for your children after you, for them to inherit as property forever. So what do we call somebody that is...
Okay.
What do you call someone who is somebody else's property forever?
Right, that's a slave. Now,
Okay, cool.
what were the Hebrew slaves?
I
what were the
already-
Hebrew? What was the
I already told you
In the Old Testament, I just looked it up. The Old Testament addresses the situation of Hebrew slaves who could become servants due to poverty, debt, or the commission of certain crimes.
We're not
Yes.
talking about Hebrew slaves. We're talking about foreign
We're
slaves.
talking about the baby.
We're talking about foreign
slaves.
slaves in Leviticus
The Bible
25. We're talking about
You guys are talking
foreigners
about what
being
slavery
owned
is
as
Hebrew
slaves.
slaves.
No, we're not. We
No,
just
we're
read
talking
you.
about foreign slaves.
Listen, Dom, I know you weren't listening the first time, but
We're talking about
or the second
we're talking
time.
about the
So
biblical version of
what
slaves.
actually happened?
Yeah, you guys are ignoring it on purpose.
So did you actually listen to the verse that we read? Because the verse didn't say anything about Hebrews, did it?
Well, yeah, of course.
Okay, who were the people?
Which book did you read?
Leviticus
Which
25,
book did you read?
44 through 46.
Okay, and who were
The
Were they-
slaves were foreigners, Dom.
Yeah, but
I read it
what
twice,
were
so
they?
you didn't
Were they
listen either
Hebrews or
time.
Were they? Were they Hebrews?
They
What
were foreigners.
Oh my gosh. Justin, don't know. You did not read the Bible.
I
You
read
are
it.
not
I read
a
it
man of God.
twice
read it to
just
you.
All those
now.
books you have,
Okay, so Dom,
all those books you have behind you.
Dom,
All those books
I'm gonna need you to listen this time when I read it. Okay, this is the third and last time I'm gonna read it to you. Okay. As for the male and female slaves who you may have, it is from the nations around you that you can acquire male and female slaves. Now, are the nations around Israel, are they Hebrews or are they foreigners?
You said what?
Are the nations around
Bro.
No, I'm
Israel,
playing with you. I heard you. No, I'm playing with you. I
are
heard
they
you.
Hebrews or
I'm playing with
foreigners?
you. I heard you.
But got the whole squad laughing.
You said were they Hebrews or foreigners?
Yeah.
And what?
The nations around the Israelites, are they Hebrew or are they foreigners?
Those were Hebrews. And
Wrong.
you're talking about the Mosaic Law? Those were Hebrew slaves.
The
In the
nations,
Bible, in the biblical...
the nations around Israel, not Israel. The nations around Israel, are they Hebrew or are they non-Israelites?
You said, are they? Yeah, those are non-Israelites.
Okay,
yes.
so what he says is that you can acquire your slaves from the nations that are around you. These are foreigners, and he says you can take foreigners and make them permanent slaves. That's what it says.
And why would that be? Do you know? Do you know why?
Because they were fine with slavery.
Why?
Because he's okay with them owning foreign slaves.
Dr. Blitz, please stop.
Well, that's it's just true, right? Like,
It's just true.
Claim that?
They're okay with
Why
slavery.
did he claim that?
Because he's
Why
okay
did
with
he
it.
claim
He's okay
that?
with slavery.
That's not the reason why. See, look, you see how you guys go out of time. You guys pick out text, but then you don't read the full text.
I've read
That's not
every
the-
last
Have you
word
read
of the Bible.
Leviticus?
Why were they able to have slaves? What was
it's-
the point of having slaves back then in
To
the
have
Bible?
free
Please tell me.
labor.
I've asked this question millions of times, but you
have
I've
free
asked this
labor, that's
question
the
millions of
point.
times, but you have yet. You said what?
To have labor.
They had labor.
To have
have-
labor. That is the
To
point of
have
buying
labor.
a slave. And God himself says that he will bless them with slaves. He
You
blesses
said to the point
Abraham.
of buying slaves.
He blesses Abraham with slaves. He gifts slaves. He's okay with it.
Yeah, God actually comes in and tries to get a runaway slave to go back into slavery, like some kind of reverse Harriet Tubman.
Everybody who was in the comment, please look
ACAB.
up the biblical terms of slavery. Please look up the biblical terms of slavery.
They already
Please.
have. That's why they know
all
you're
I
getting
ask.
cooked right
They're
now.
not going to answer the question. You haven't even answered any of my questions.
Well,
Okay. Look,
we did answer it. You just don't
you
like
can
the
talk about
answer.
me.
We
I
answered
got
all your
nothing to say about
questions.
you,
It's
bro.
okay if you don't understand
Justin.
the answer.
You really didn't. You really didn't. You
Okay,
you-
sorry.
you
What's
moved
your
the
question
to something
again?
else. I said what? Next guy, please. Thank you, Nolan. My question was why?
I mean, he's probably right.
Did God allow them to have slaves? There's
Because
an actual
he's
explanation of why that
okay
happened.
with them having slaves.
That's not.
Yeah,
that's
he's
not. That's
pro-slavery.
not. That's not the answer.
Okay, then
That's
you
not the
then you give me
at
the
all.
biblical answer where
Well,
God
because
says
you
this
realize-
is why
you realize-
I'm allowing you
do
to own
realize
slaves.
Moses' people.
Go
Do you
ahead.
realize Moses? Do you
Dom,
realize
go ahead and
Moses'
give me the
people were
answer.
slaves? Jesus'
Dom.
own people.
Dom, give me the
Yeah,
Dom, give me the answer.
God's fine with slavery as long as it's his chosen people, the ones who own the slaves. Like, God has no problems with
Jesus' people were
Israelites owning
slaves.
slaves. He just doesn't want
They
the
had to
Israelites
roam
owned
around
as
Egypt for
slaves
40
in the Bible.
years. They
So
had to
he's
roam around Egypt for 40 years. His people were slaves. What are you talking about?
They didn't roam
Yeah, he's-
Egypt for
he-
40 years. You're mixing your stories up.
So the God of the God of the Old Testament is fine as long as it's the Hebrews who own the slaves. But if it's somebody who owns the Hebrews as slaves, then it's not okay.
yeah.
According to the God of the Old Testament, I should be allowed to own slaves, just not you
According
guys.
to the God of the, you see how you're saying that? According to the God of the Old Testament. Do you know
Yeah.
what stopped? Do you know? Remember, the old God stays the same, so he never changed.
Okay, so according to your God, I should be allowed to own slaves, and you guys shouldn't.
Where does it say that? Where does it say you're allowed to own slaves?
We just
Leviticus
read it.
25, whatever.
Where does it say that?
Exodus
Where does it say-
21
what does
as
it
well.
really say?
In Exodus
Why?
21, you can
No,
just
no,
sell your
because
daughter as a
I
slave.
see what you're doing. Why does it say that? Why? Because you're not answering why.
Because
You're
God's
asking
pro-slavery.
what
Well,
does-
so I already,
Yeah,
I
God had a
already,
chosen people.
yeah, I already gave you the answer, and you don't like the answer. So give me a rebuttal from the Bible.
No, because you're taking the pieces out of the Bible.
Dom, find me a
and then
Bible
you're putting
verse
it into your own
find me a
context.
Bible verse
You
that
won't even
contradicts.
look up- You won't
that
even
contra-
look up.
Dom, find me a
Go
Bible
ahead.
verse that contradicts our claim.
Find you a Bible verse that contradicts your claim.
Mm-hmm.
I already told you what slaves meant. I said, what does slavery in the biblical terms mean at that time?
We did-
You
Wait,
have
I
to-
feel
we-
like
we
I feel
read
like
you
we're
the
going in
verse.
circles. Wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going in circles, and I feel like we have lots of other guests, but we appreciate you coming on up here.
Yeah, we'll get somebody up that can actually address the text. But
I
thanks for
appreciate
trying,
you,
Dom.
Ian.